Silence is rarely celebrated for its strength. Most people treat it like an empty seat at the dinner table, something uncomfortable that must be filled. Yet in the calculus of influence, silence is a hidden lever. It asks for no effort, but it moves the minds of others with ease. Niccolò Machiavelli saw this clearly. In a city where words could ignite feuds, he noticed that the most formidable players were not the loudest. They were the ones who left sentences unfinished, the ones who let a sly smile replace a rebuttal. Their reserve forced everyone else to explain, defend, and speculate. While others burned daylight on argument, the silent few shaped the outcome by shaping the mood. Picture two advisors before a ruler. One argues, gestures, piles proof upon proof. The other listens, then offers a single curt observation. We may not have all the facts. Nothing more. That fragment echoes through the hall long after the speeches fade. Within hours, factions question their own data, draft new reports, postpone decisive votes. The quiet advisor moves nothing with his hands, yet everything shifts around him. This is the first principle of strategic silence. Ambiguity is leverage. Humans dislike unfinished stories, leave them a gap, and they rush to fill it, often in ways that benefit the one who stayed silent. Your restraint becomes their labor, your pause becomes their confession. But do not confuse silence with passivity. It is active craftsmanship, an architecture of pauses and withheld reactions. Each gap rearranges social gravity. Each unsaid thought lands heavier than pages of explanation. Used sparingly, the pause is a scalpel. Used well, it is a siege engine. Consider a Florentine envoy who coveted an alliance. At banquets, he murmured routine courtesies, then drifted to the balcony while wine loosened other tongues. Because he took no clear stance, every faction assumed he favored them. By week's end, the treaty he wanted was placed politely in his pocket, written by people convinced the idea was theirs. Centuries later, boardrooms replay the pattern. A young executive enters a heated budget review. She listens, jots 2 lines, and finally asks, "What hidden cost haven't we priced?" Then she stops. The room mutates. Defenders of pet projects suddenly interrogate themselves. When the meeting closes, her single question, now repeated by others, defines the new plan, though hardly anyone can recall her exact phrasing. Silence works because humans are narrative creatures. When plot holes appear, we hurry to patch them, often with our own fears. The politician who refuses to deny a rumor gains more headlines than the one who answers every allegation. The friend who pauses before agreeing to a favor makes us sweeten the request unprompted. Use the pause with intent. Delay a reply 1 heartbeat beyond custom. Many will fill the gap with extra detail. Conclude a thought with a soft, perhaps, and watch uncertain allies chase clarity. When praise drifts your way, accept it with a nod, but no story. Admirers will enlarge it unaided. Machiavelli's Florence shifted alliances weakly. Loud promises aged poorly, but quiet impressions matured like wine. A whispered doubt today could unseat a minister by harvest. Remember, silence is not emptiness. It is potential energy, like a bow drawn, but not yet loosed. Those who cannot bear stillness may reach out to touch the string and release the arrow upon themselves. Before we advance, remember a caution. Silence must look intentional, not anxious. Hold eye contact, rest your shoulders. Let the pause feel like a choice. When observers sense that you own the empty space, they suspect you may own more. A single breath can say more than a paragraph of explanation. Let that breath be your seal. Silence alone can unsettle, but silence combined with measured patience can undo a whole architecture of ego. Machiavelli hinted at this synergy when he advised rulers to wait for the proper season. A prince who strikes too soon advertises fear. One who waits allows the target's own flaws to ripen into weakness. Patience, therefore, is the kiln in which silent strategy is fired. Imagine setting a single bead of water onto cool steel. Nothing happens. Heat the metal slowly, and that same bead trembles, skitters, and finally vanishes. The heat was never visible, yet it completed the task. In politics, the gradual rise of pressure is supplied by time. Your quiet watchfulness is the flame beneath the pan. Consider the ambitious merchant who fancies himself indispensable to the court. He flaunts minor victories, interrupts senior ministers, collects hollow applause. If you confront him, he digs in. If you feed his vanity with gentle nods, he balloons. Give him another stage, another toast. Soon he overreaches, insults a true ally, or promises more than he can deliver. You spoke almost nothing, but you prepared the fall by letting him climb unroped. Here lies the second principle: offer rope masked as reward. The rope can be praise, opportunity, or simply space to speak. Proud hearts crave sound. They rush to fill silence with self-congratulation. Each boast is another loop around their own wrists. Practical applications. 1. When a rival volunteers an aggressive timeline, agree pleasantly and add a tiny enhancement that stretches resources. Applause will coax them forward, yet any delay becomes their failure, not yours. 2. If an egotist seeks credit, grant it publicly, then watch as expectations swell beyond their reach. 3. When someone demands immediate feedback, respond with a warm, "Let's revisit this after more data." The pause alone may expose inconsistencies they hoped would stay hidden. Notice the rhythm. You do not resist. You welcome and amplify. Like a mirror tilted just so, you throw back their own light, a little brighter, a little hotter, until it scorches. Machiavelli wrote, "It is double delight to deceive the deceiver." Modern readers misinterpret this as sadism. The deeper meaning is strategic thrift. If your foe carries the cost of his own defeat, your treasury remains untouched. Energy conserved is power preserved. But patience is uncomfortable. Our age worships speed, reply all threads, instant analytics. Practicing Machiavellian waiting feels like stepping outside the current. The mind itches to intervene, correct, defend, resist. Every unforced comment is a leak in your dam of influence. Train the discipline in small ways. Let an uncomfortable silence end meetings instead of summarizing what everyone already knows. Delete draft responses. Send the shortest version tomorrow. Schedule decisions one day later than convenient. Watch which arguments collapse overnight, starved of urgency. Each exercise thickens your tolerance for still spaces, and in those spaces, rivals often solve themselves. Patience also reveals patterns invisible at regular speed. The colleague who flatters you every Friday may need weekend approvals. The official who answers too quickly on minor issues might hide dread on major ones. Time is a black light. It makes concealed stains glow. Who sits by the river long enough will see the body of his enemy float by, say the old Florentines. Machiavelli never quoted the line, yet he lived its spirit. Let currents carry debris. Intervene only when the boat you want drifts within reach. Before we close this segment, keep one image. Silence is the still surface. Patience is the depth beneath. A shallow pond may look calm, but drop a stone and the bottom rises in mud. A deep lake absorbs the stone without a ripple. Strive for the lake. In the next part, we examine how silence and patience create controlled uncertainty, a fog your adversary must navigate while you read the map from above. Silence. Silence and patience create the stage, but uncertainty supplies the actors. A mind adrift in doubt seeks landmarks. If none appear, it circles itself until exhaustion sets in. Machiavelli exploited this inside every negotiation. He offered half answers, shifting timetables, conditional promises. The resulting fog forced others to cling to any glimpse of clarity, which of course he delivered only when it served him. This is the third principle: confuse with consistency. The phrase sounds paradoxical, yet its logic is simple. You keep your outer behavior steady, polite greetings, punctual meetings, modest language, while quietly changing facts beneath the surface. A date moves, a figure is revised. A memo uses one adjective today, its opposite tomorrow. None of these edits is large enough to provoke alarm. Taken together, they loosen reality's bolts. Picture a project manager who provides identical status slides each week, yet the footnotes drift. One milestone in testing becomes in refinement, then under final review. By the time executives notice, no one can pinpoint when control was lost. Energy, once devoted to progress, now drains into reconstruction of the timeline. The manager's silence on the matter keeps everyone polite, because no single statement is false, merely different. The same dynamic rules personal life. A friend who offers support in principle but cancels plans at the last minute introduces micro-instability. Soon you hesitate before requesting help, unsure whether the promise holds. Your own uncertainty silences you on their behalf, saving them the labor of saying no. To employ this tactic deliberately, start small. 1. Vary response time. An immediate answer followed by a lengthy delay forces others to wonder which version reflects your true priorities. 2. Adjust minor details in casual retellings. Was the meeting at 10 or 11? Did 3 people agree or 4? Observers who correct you invest their authority in the record. You keep yours in reserve. 3. Praise and question in the same breath. Your proposal is ingenious, though I worry the numbers assume perfect conditions. Compliment anchors, doubt destabilizes. The art lies in balance. Too much confusion invites scrutiny. Too little leaves opponents comfortable. Offer just enough clarity to keep them hopeful, just enough ambiguity to keep them off balance. In chess, the strongest pins are quiet. A bishop immobilizes a knight not by attacking it, but by threatening the king behind it. The knight appears free until it moves. Silence amplifies the effect. If they ask for certainty, respond with curiosity. Interesting point. How do you see it? The more they speak, the more interpretations they create. Each version of events competes with the last, and you stand apart, untouched by contradiction. Remember, uncertainty is not the goal. Control is. Fog is useful only when you know the terrain. Keep private records pristine. Track every revision, every pause, every delay. Your map of the maze must be flawless. Theirs should change with every turn. Once uncertainty has sapped confidence, the door opens to a subtler weapon: reputation. A person who doubts events soon doubts themselves, and a self-doubting voice carries poorly in public. In the next section, we turn to the quiet art of letting doubt spread from the inside out until the crowd finishes what you began. Reputation is the currency of power economies. Spend it, trade it, or steal it. Everything follows perception. Machiavelli observed that a prince can recover lost troops faster than lost credibility, for men march toward banners they respect and away from banners they mistrust. Thus, the fourth principle: let suggestion ruin what accusation cannot. A direct attack hardens loyalties, and insinuation erodes them. The method is less whisper campaign than subtle framing. You supply no judgment, only questions delivered at moments that invite the listener to judge. Suppose a colleague, Lena, is known for meticulous reports. At a meeting you mention, almost casually, Lena's latest figures look unusually optimistic. I envy her confidence. No charge, only a compliment tinged with wonder. From that seed, corridors fill with quiet analysis. By next week, someone else has discovered a calculation error. You did nothing but plant the angle of inquiry. Key techniques: the dangling pause. End a sentence just before praise completes. I'm sure Mark had excellent reasons for, well, he's closer to the issue. Mine supply endings darker than any you could state. The overstated virtue. Applaud a trait to unnatural degree. Clara is so transparent with budgets, she shares every detail. Overpraise makes listeners notice the one detail she withheld. The statistical shrug. Cite numbers without context. 70% of launches miss projections. Ours might join the majority. You never linked failure to any person, but anxiety searches for a culprit. Maintain plausible neutrality. Offer help publicly, advice privately. When praise returns to you, deflect. We all contribute. This evenness throws your hints into sharper relief. People note that you rarely criticize, so when concern leaks into your tone, they mark it as truth. A collapsing reputation becomes a silent snowball. Allies retreat to protect their own image, amplifying the target's isolation. Sponsors reconsider. Invitations fade. No decree barred the door. The hallway simply grew colder. Yet caution. Destroy only what you must. Ruined reputations clutter the field, arousing pity, sparking counter-alliances. Aim for functional incapacitation, not spectacle. A rival who doubts her footing steps lightly. A rival who falls may lash out in desperation. Once reputation falters, identity questions bloom inside the victim. Did I misread my standing? Have I become careless? That introspection weakens outer defense. You have throttled their voice in public. Now you turn within, where silence itself can echo loudest. In the final part, we arrive at the finishing move, the strategic withdrawal that seals confusion, punctures reputation, and lets the opponent's own mind supply the fatal weight. Power, at last, leaves no fingerprints. Practical signals of readiness. 1. They seek reassurance in small matters, double-checking trivial details you once managed together. 2. Their explanations preempt questions you haven't asked, proof they argue now with imagined critics. Third allies once loyal to them redirect small courtesies toward you, copying you on emails, quoting your earlier suggestions. At that crest, step back, cancel a meeting to focus on priorities. Answer messages with courteous brevity. Applaud their independent judgment, then offer no further input. To observers, you respect autonomy. To the target, you remove the last anchor. Silence now transforms into vacuum. Every thought they cannot share loops internally. Each loop tightens the knot. Nights stretch, appetite shrinks, decisions stall. They replay interactions, searching for the misstep that prompted your retreat. In doing so, they discover missteps you never noticed, chaining their guilt to phantoms. Eventually, the target faces a choice. She may rebuild elsewhere, nursing caution that serves your interests, or she may spiral, her credibility dissolving until even friends avert their gaze. Either outcome grants you undisputed ground. Machiavelli never worshipped silence for silence's sake. He valued results gained with minimal cost. Words, after all, are resources. The more you spend, the fewer you have when crisis calls. Strategic quiet conserves capital. masks intention, invites opponents to volunteer their weaknesses, and shields you from counterattack. In practice, total silence is rare. Even the most reserved prince must speak edicts. The most poised executive must brief teams. What matters is the ratio. Say enough to direct attention, but not enough to satisfy it. Curiosity keeps followers engaged and rivals exposed. So cultivate the pause. Measure uncertainty like spice, strong enough to linger, mild enough to avoid bitterness. Guard reputations with care, for one day you may need an enemy's good name intact to mask your own maneuver. And when the moment arrives, step away without clang or echo. Let time and doubt complete the architecture you designed. Stay silent, not because you fear noise, but because you understand its price. In a culture addicted to commentary, restraint is radical. In rooms crowded with persuasion, the unheard voice shapes the loudest outcome. Machiavelli whispered that lesson through the corridors of Florence. It still drifts through ours. Walk softly, listen fully, speak briefly, then watch what grows in the space you leave behind.